Hi everyone, welcome to Outdoor Bound TV. I'm Kurt Walbeck. Today we're in northern Minnesota on one of my favorite lakes to fish, Lake Winnibigoshish. Now, one of the questions we get a lot is when you fish these big bodies of water like Lake Winnie or Lake Cass or even central Minnesota, Mille Lacs, how do you break it down? Where do you find fish? So that's what we're going to be talking about today, is how do you break down these big bodies of water to find walleyes. There's a fish. Oh, well, he's fighting a little bit. That's what I figured. He didn't exactly feel like what we're after. But when you're out searching for fish, it's exactly what you're going to get from time to time, is you're going to find all kinds of different species. So we'll get him back and see some walleyes on the graph. So we're running kind of along a break line here on the lake, and there's shallow water off to our left, and we got a little bit deeper trough here to our right. And what we've done is we came down that break line in about 26 feet of water in the first pass, saw some fish on our side imaging a little bit deeper, so we've turned around. Now we're coming back up through that trough in about 30 feet of water. So we'll see if that pays out. We noticed the fish on the side imaging, like I said, but they were just a little bit too far out to be able to reach by casting to them. So by moving 40, 50 feet out, we'll see if we can get right over the top of them. Well, we came up to this narrow spot. As soon as we did, we started to graph a few fish. And that's a lot of what we're seeing in here is these smaller walleyes. And now most people look at that and say, well, that's not any fun. But I tell you what, for Lake Winnibigoshish, this is great news, because right now this lake is full of those 10 to 12 inch fish. So what that means is for the next couple of years, it's going to be fantastic. We've got great walleye year classes coming up, so it bodes very well for the future of Lake Winnibigoshish. Well, you saw us pick up that small fish, and immediately when we dropped it down, we had another small fish hit right away. So what we've done is we've spot locked on that spot. So now what we're going to do is we're going to kind of fan cast around the boat and just let our jig and minnow settle, and then just kind of walk it back. It's obvious there's some fish here on this spot, so we're going to use a little finesse method like that. Oh, I just dropped him too. And see if we can pick out some of these bigger fish here. Still looks good. Let's see if we can find them. So what I like to do on these big bodies of water is, first of all, you know, we found what locations we wanted to kind of target. We moved through at a slow pace, just trying to find fish and identify fish. And then once we found a band of fish, you know, a couple small ones right away, so we stop, hit spot lock, and now we'll fish it and kind of finesse fish. There we go. In this spot, and see what we can pick up. This feels like another small guy, and it is. Well, I think the minnow was just as big as he was. We'll let him have that meal. All right, we'll put him back and bait up. So I'm still using my search bait, my jig and my minnow, and what I'm doing now is just kind of fan casting, looking for those fish. What I'll typically do here is once we find a pot of fish, I may start switching baits. I may switch over to a jigging wrap. I may switch over to just a little bit smaller jig now that we're stationary. Anything that we can do to hone in on those fish. Ooh. Dropped it. All right, so he robbed me. I'm gonna take this opportunity to tie on a 1/4 ounce jig now that we're stopped. And we're gonna throw to him with a little bit smaller jig. What I'm using right now is the Neon Moon Eye jigs from VMC. I really like these jigs because they've got a neat profile in the water, but more importantly, they have just a unique hook design. And it's a really, really strong hook. I don't ever typically will bend my jig hooks here. They're very, very strong and real positive hook sets. So I really like these Neon Moon Eye jigs. So that's what I'm tying up right now. We're gonna tip it with a minnow. We'll see what we can find. There we go. This one feels a little bit better. A little more bend to the rod. There we go. Look at that. He just T-boned that VMC Moon Eye jig. And I tell you what, just a positive hook set, just right in the top of the lip. And look at that, just a beautiful Lake Winnie walleye. Again, not a monster by any means, but talk about boding well for the future. We're gonna have some great years of fishing here on Lake Winnibigoshish. Get this guy back. Now, one thing you do have to be a little careful of when you're searching for fish like we are today, these high sun days, bluebird sunny days, not a lot of wind, a lot of these fish will slide deep. You have to be a little careful that you're not fishing them too deep. And what I mean by that is usually over 30 feet, one atmosphere, the fish won't survive when you bring them up from those depths. So we're purposely trying to stay out of that 31, 32, 33 feet of depth, trying to work kind of that 28, 27 foot range, simply because even though there may be fish down there, we know when we bring them up, they're not going to survive. So you really need to be a little careful when you are out searching for fish to make sure that you're not fishing them too deep. There he is. There we go. Just kind of right on that edge of about 26 feet of water, and there he was. Another one in that same year class. Another nice, just perfect fish over the next couple of years. Can be a dandy. One of the things I can't stress enough when you're finesse fishing, jig fishing really, is to have a rod that has a lot of sensitivity. Spend the money for a good rod. I'm telling you, for years and years, I fished with just about any rod I could get my hands on. And when I started moving over to a good quality rod, boy, it makes all the difference in the world in what you can feel and your hook sets. Now, I use a 7-foot 2-inch tooth tamer rod for my jigging. It allows me to get out away from the boat just a little bit more, and just great sensitivity in the tip and all the way down to the handle. I literally can feel when a walleye picks up a minnow right here in my hand, and that's what you want. You don't want something too super flexible that you lose a lot of the sensitivity. You don't want a pool cue, right? We're not throwing for muskies here. You want something with a good backbone, but yet enough flexibility in the tip and enough sensitivity to be able to feel when these walleyes bite. Saw them right on the graph. As soon as I saw them, I thought, well, let's get ready. And sure enough, they hit. There we go. It's getting a little nicer. pretty good pot of fish right there. And let this guy go, probably a 13-inch fish. So and there's plenty more down there. So we're gonna see if we can find some of these, hopefully a little bit bigger size fish. There we go. There's a fish. That one's got a little more weight. That's what we're looking for. Not a really big fish, but I guess he was a little deceiving because we're kind of pulling him through a little sideways there, but that's a 13-inch fish. Great eating fish right there. If you want to take some home, these are perfect for eating. I think we'll put him in the box and have a fish fry tonight. There we go. And I got one pulling a little bit. Doesn't feel like he's huge, but definitely the right species. There we go. Well, again, we're proving that checking our maps and looking at our graphs and studying our electronics honed in on some of these spots, so we found the fish. Now again, the biggest objective is now see if we can find that bigger slot of fish. So sometimes that means sliding out to a little bit deeper water, maybe sliding in a little shallower. Typically when you catch a lot of those 12, 13-inch fish, that is the group of fish or the age class of fish that is in that area. So I like to move just a little bit one way or another, or maybe even onto some a different type of a bottom, maybe a little more rock, something like that, to find that different age class of fish. So we'll do that now.
Outdoor Bound TV is brought to you by Mission Crossbows and HHA Sports.
Well, we've identified an area with some bigger fish on the electronics. So it's a little bit shallower than what we've been fishing. We're fishing in the 14, 15-foot range. This is a little bit more shallow, but we're locating fish. So what we're doing is we're staying off to the side. We don't want to cruise over the top of them, and we're just pitching our jig. Gone down to a 1/4 ounce jig in a minnow, a little bit slower presentation, slowed way down on our trolling speed. We're just kind of moving around where we located the fish, and we're just pitching our jigs up into them. So these are some of these little bit bigger fish from what we can tell on the electronics that we want to pitch into. We don't want to scare them out of here. So we're just going to pitch to them, see if we can get them to bite. And because this water is so clear, what I'm doing is I'm throwing out away from the boat, working my jig and minnow back, and as soon as I can see the jig and minnow, then I just reel it right back. And the reason being is with this clear water, these fish definitely will see the boat, so it doesn't really pay to fish that second half of your retrieve. The first half of it is going to be the key where the fish are, because once they can see that boat, chances are they're not going to follow it in. There's a fish right there. Oh yeah. He hit that one a ton. And he's taking some line. Now I don't know if this is a big pike or if it's a walleye, but he is definitely a bigger fish, that's for sure. And again, what we're doing here is we just identified these fish on our electronics. They're in a little shallower, so rather than jigging over the top of them, we just kind of cruised along it, and we're pitching our jig and minnow up into it. Not horsing him, I'm just giving him time because I'm running a pretty light 6-pound advanced fluorocarbon. Ooh, I see him going back there. Again, just trying to be a little ginger with him. See, he's hooked right in the corner of the mouth. So. Awesome. Oops. He's still got some fight left in him. Well, that's not the species we're after, but look at that fish. Incredible. On 6-pound test, 1/4 ounce jig and a minnow. Well, we're gonna get him unhooked, see if we can find some of these walleyes we're after. There we go, look at that. Awesome, Lake Winnibigoshish pike. We'll get him back. There's a fish. Yeah, we got the right species. That's a good fish. Another good eater fish. Look at that, just pretty. Perfect for in the pan. Perfect little walleye to eat. 14.5-inch fish. We'll take him home and eat him. What a ton of fun. Oh yeah. Another one of those keeper walleyes here on Lake Winnibigoshish. 14-inch fish. Perfect. Again, there's a slot that protects everything from 18 to 24. This is a perfect size to eat, so in the box he goes. Kind of been relating to this bunch of rocks right here. That's where, you know, they're either right around or off to the side of. There's a fish. Man, is that fun when you know you've done your homework, you look at the maps, you look at your electronics, pick out some great places, get in there, move through quickly, find the fish, dial them in, find the presentation they want. Nothing beats it. Look at that. What a ton of fun. Don't be intimidated by big bodies of water. Just break it down. Again, look at your maps, look at your electronics. Use some common sense. Time of the year, right? Where do they spawn? Where do they spend their summer months and so on? You can put some in the boat too. There's a fish. Oh, I tell you what, when a plan comes together, I love it. You know, we're just pitching small. We're just pitching small jig and a minnow here. Slowed our presentation way down. Looking for bigger fish. We found quite a few of small fish, and then we just kept moving around, trying some of the different places until we could find big fish. Look at that. That's incredible. Lake Winnibigoshish, Minnesota. Big lake, break it down. This is what happens. We'll be right back after these messages.
Outdoor Bound TV is brought to you by Rapala and Mountain Dew.
There's some fish right here coming through. There's a fish. I tell you what, this is just crazy. Again, don't let big water intimidate you. Use common sense. What are they doing during different times of the year? Pay attention to that. Read your maps, read your electronics, and then pick out the spots you think are going to hold fish and just keep going into those spots. Sooner or later, you're going to find them. It's a pretty good fish. There you go. Big water walleyes. Again, don't be intimidated by big water. Just break it down. Look for the little spots on your map, on your graph that are gonna hold fish. Work them out, find the fish. Then once you find them, slow down your presentation and you put those kind of fish in the boat. Hey everyone, we hope that you'll join us again here next week when we'll bring you more great hunting and fishing action from around the US, around Canada, and around the world, right here on Outdoor Bound TV. What a great fish.
Outdoor Bound TV is brought to you by Matthews Archery and Vortex Optics.
Must remember how many times you hit the button on that one. Lost. Easy for you to say. Coming like weeds more than a fish. Yeah, missed him. It does it every time. Oh, there he let go too. But that is an effective way. Ooh. Ooh. Certainly one way when you're on a body of water you've never fished before.
Outdoor Bound TV is brought to you by Suffix and VMC Hooks.